let's get right into sharing some creepy stories from you, the viewers. Aho. Welcome back to another episode here at Shanclen Shadow Productions. Now, before we go ahead and get started here, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content here at Shanclen Shadow Productions, and turn on your notifications to all so you guys get on-time notifications whenever I make a post, do live streams, or upload a new video. Yes. And without further ado, let's hop into these stories. Oh. Firstly, I wanted to say how much I appreciate your content and your willingness to share stories and teachings from your culture. It's admirable to see a fellow Indigenous person creating a space where knowledge, respect, and spirituality can coexist. I'm of Māori descent, and like many Indigenous peoples, we have our own spiritual beings and stories passed down through generations. I've had a few experiences of my own, but one in particular, something that happened in July of last year, devastated my family and changed us forever. I'll try to use minimal Māori, our language, but some words are sacred and can't be easily translated. I'll give pronunciation tips where I can. Don't stress too much if you don't get it perfect. The Forest Dwellers. The being I'm about to speak of is called the Patupai Arehi. Sorry if I said that wrong. They are often described as mischievous fairy folk who dwell deep within the forest. They are neither good nor evil. Their stories, abilities, and temperaments vary depending on the tribe and religion. Generally, however, they are regarded with caution. The Patupai Arehi are said to play cruel tricks on those who wander into their territory, imitating voices of loved ones, luring travelers with laughter or song into dense fog, or leading them to cliff edges where one misstep could mean death. Many in my family and the iwi have stories of encountering them, but none so chilling as what happened to my uncle. Many in my family and Ewe have stories encountering them, but none so chilling as what happened to my uncle. It began in early July 2024. My uncle lived with an extended family in an area known as Tapu, meaning sacred, alive with powerful spiritual energy. The land there is ancient and untouched, a dense forest with almost no modern development. Many homes don't even have electricity. Before he disappeared, my uncle began to speak strangely. He claimed that spirits and forest creatures were watching him, trying to take him. My family took his words seriously and planned to seek help from a Tahuna. Local authorities and the Tahuna were called in to search the vast wilderness. After 2 weeks, the official search ended without any answers. Still, my family refused to give up. One of my uncles began to have reoccurring dreams. In them, he could sense a presence, something unseen but powerful, lurking in the forest and watching him. After several nights of this, the dreams changed. He saw his missing brother call out for help. His voice trembled with fear. "They've got me, please help," he cried. Knowing this was no ordinary dream, the family called upon another Tahuna, a respected woman from the local area. She agreed to travel into the forest to see what she could sense. As they drove along the dirt road that had led toward the forest entrance, the Tahuna suddenly shouted, "Stop." Startled, my uncle slammed the brakes and asked what was wrong. "They don't want me here," she whispered. "I'm not welcome." When pressed, she explained that the forest itself seemed to reject her presence, that her energy angered whatever dwelled in there. She felt spirits pushing her back, warning her not to enter. Uneasy, they decided to leave. Later, my uncle and other family members returned without her. They climbed toward the cliffs and began searching again. That's when they found something that chills me to my bones. There were tracks. Not human, not animal, but each footstep was around 40 centimeters long, thin with 3 elongated toes, sharp and skeletal. They looked alien. The tracks began at the base of a tree, trailed about 10 meters, and then suddenly stopped, as if whatever made them had risen into the treetops and vanished. In that religion, the Patupai Arehi are said to stand around 8 feet tall. When my family saw the footprints, an overwhelming sense of dread and nausea overcame them. They fled the area immediately, later performing the cleansing rituals to remove the tapu from themselves. Days passed and dreams continued. My uncle kept hearing his brother's voice pleading, "Find me, they have me." 1 week later, he returned to the forest alone, near the cliffs where the tracks had begun. As night began to fall, he sat beneath a tree and began to recite a karakea, a sacred prayer asking for guidance to help find his brother. And something compelled him to look up. High above, about 15 to 18 meters off the ground, he saw something hanging in the fading light. It was his brother. He was dead. The discovery shattered the family and the entire community, but we were grateful to finally bring his body home and perform the proper rituals to set his Wairoa spirit free. For context, my uncle who went missing was in his mid-60s. He walked with a cane due to severe knee and hip problems. There was no possible way he could have climbed that high into the trees on his own. We do not know why the Patapaiarehe targeted him or what exactly they wanted, but it cost him his life. So now if you ever find yourself in the forest, be careful, show respect, offer acknowledgement and thanks. And above all, stay away from tapu places. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story. I have a few other experiences from the same area, some of my own, but those are stories for another night. Please continue sharing your teachings and stories. What you do means more than you know. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this one right here. Thank you so much for the story that you've given from the Maori people again. This is a second story from the Maori, and I have to say, I'm so sorry if I pronounce things wrong. I'm horrible at reading and pronunciations of other people's languages, but if I hear it in person, then I can recite it, but I'm reading it, and I'm not the best reader. But anyways, thank you so much for the story. And my condolences to your uncle, too. Yeah, when it comes to some of the spiritual beings that are out there, sometimes they just go rogue, and they do what they do. And unfortunately, some people do get taken like that. There are stories in our tribes too of people, whether or not they deserved it or not, it could have been just totally random too, or they lived in a sacred area, and who really knows if something called out to him and it was taken in a malicious way, or he was more so voluntarily taken by the beings that are there too. We have stories of that too. But again, thank you so much for submitting this creepy story and sharing some of your beings from your culture and sharing some of your language, even though I butchered some of it too. But again, my condolences to your uncle. And when it comes to people going missing like that too, especially when it comes to family members too, sometimes they can reach out to you in your dreams and ask for help if they need guidance or to help find them. And it seems like his spirit was still around and he wanted his body to be found. And you know, I'm glad that you guys got the ceremonies that you needed to, and you guys were able to find his body and take him back home, and was able to find peace in some way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, he did pass away, but you know, it does help out a little bit to have the body home with the rest of his family members. So my condolences for that, but thank you so much for sharing your story and your teachings, and I would love to hear more of your stories. Oh, so let's go ahead and hop in to the next story. Hey Shanclen, I've been a fan of your channel for a few years now, and I love the stories that you bring to light. So many people keep them hidden, but after watching your videos and hearing others share their experiences, I think it's finally time to share mine. Maybe you'll have some insight. I've always been curious about Native American legends and lore, especially since I live near the East Coast in Pennsylvania. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood, and there was a park just around the corner. It was my hangout spot as a kid, and the place I went to almost every day. The first time I remembered encountering it, I must have been about 12 or 13 years old. That night felt different from the start. My parents had just extended my curfew to 10 p.m., so for the first time I got to stay out late. My friend and I were alone in the park, climbing on the jungle gym, laughing and feeling free. But somewhere between the laughter and the stillness of the night, I started to feel uneasy, like something had shifted in the air. From the top of the jungle gym, I scanned the park, The baseball field lights were off, the courts and fields around us swallowed in darkness. The only glow came from a single streetlight in the parking lot across the way, its light flickering against the edge of the woods that lined the park. That's when I saw it. Under that lonely streetlight stood a shape, tall and motionless. At first, I thought it might have been a person, but as I stared, I realized it wasn't. It was massive, and the longer I looked, the more I could feel it looking back at me. Then, it started to grow. It stretched upward, its shadow elongating until it was nearly as tall as the streetlight itself. The body was almost canine, a long snout, sharp teeth, wild spiky hair bristling across its frame. It stood upright on two legs, its limbs far long, its posture unnatural. No matter how the light hit it, the thing stayed completely black, a void that refused to reflect light. I never saw its eyes. Without turning to my friend, I said quietly, "Get off and start running to the bridge." She laughed, thinking I was joking. "I'm not joking," I hissed. "We're in danger, start running." She looked at my face, then took off without another word. I kept my eyes locked on the shadow. Only when she was far enough did I jump from the jungle gym and bolt for the bridge, the only way out of the park. I ran so fast I lost one of my mother's flip-flops along the way, but I didn't stop to grab it. I didn't even look back. Later that night, I tried to convince myself it hadn't been real, that maybe I just imagined it, just a trick of the dark. But the next morning, my mom demanded I go back to the park and find her missing shoe. Of course, she wouldn't have believed the truth. To her, I was just making excuses, so I went back. It was daylight this time, and I convinced my friend to meet me there again. While waiting for her, I sat on the swings facing the woods, the same dense patch that bordered the parking lot where I'd seen the thing. The trees were so thick, it looked like the forest was swallowing the baseball field whole. Even in broad daylight, something about that place made my stomach twist. I texted my friend, telling her to hurry. Then I heard it, a crack of a branch breaking behind me. Before I could turn around, something hit me square in the back, and I froze, then suddenly looked down. Laying at my feet was my mother's flip-flop, the same one I'd lost the night before. My first thought was that my friend had arrived early and was messing with me. I laughed nervously and called out toward the woods. "That's not funny, you should have told me you were already here." But then, from the corner of my eye, I saw her. She was walking across the bridge, just then arriving to the park. The blood drained from my face, and I grabbed the shoe and ran to her, and we left without saying much. I didn't go back to that park for a long time after that. That encounter was only the beginning. That park and that entity followed me in ways I still can't explain. Even now, 27 years old, I still dream of that night. The shape beneath the streetlight, the way it grew. Sometimes I wonder if I ever really left the park, or if part of it followed me home. Yay! Let's talk about this one. So, being able to stay late at nights. You get an updated curfew, you can kind of stay out a little bit later. For me, that time was always when the sun went down. The streetlights came on, said to get your ass home, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. But thank you so much for submitting this story. Now, what this being could actually be, I honestly do not know. You mentioned that you were in the East Coast, so I'm not 100% too sure what those spirits over there could be. But really tall streetlight being, definitely creepy. And how I would take that out is I would possibly go in the slide and pull a 300 and try to corner it into the slide and have its face come in and just go. Try to corner it, make sure you use its size against them. But that's definitely very creepy that the flip-flop was thrown at you. And if you lose your mother's flip-flops, always make sure to come back and get it the next day. But it was gone, and this being seemed to have taken a piece of you and her at this time. So I think it, depending on where this location is, could have been a sacred site where some spiritual beings are. And maybe with the development of the park, maybe the development of the baseball fields, that location could have been a very sacred spot. And this being was kind of wanting to chase off people, to scare them away, to be able to have its home back. And I would recommend, if you ever do go back to that location, that you do give tobacco offering to the spirit and kind of just tell them your intentions and what you want, because situations like that, they kind of do stick with you. It becomes almost like a spiritual scar until you kind of find peace with it, or they kind of lift whatever feelings that they imprinted on you because of that. Their whole mission was to scare people off to get its land back. So my question I would have is, do you know of anybody else in the location kind of experienced something like that? I know you said you had your friend that was with you there as well, but it would be very interesting if the locals would kind of experience something like that too as well. And maybe we send him this video to this story and ask him, you guys experience something like this too? Yeah. But thank you so much for submitting this video. I'd say go do a tobacco offering at that park if you can, and do not lose your mother's flip-flops ever again. Oh, awesome. On to the next story. Last story here for the night. As told by my mother about her cousin's encounter on the reservation. Growing up on the reservation, I heard countless stories from family and friends about things that go bump in the night. Whether you believe in them or not, being in their presence is something that chills you to your bone. My mother once shared a story with me that still makes my skin crawl. It wasn't her story though, it belonged to her cousin. It was a cold fall evening when she told me. I remember asking her, half jokingly, if she believed in the boogeyman. She looked straight in my eye and said softly, yes and no. I frowned, confused. I said, why both? She sighed and sat me down on the floor beside her. In our Navajo way, she said, there are things that could be considered the boogeyman. I can't say their true name, but I can tell you a story. Years ago, when life was simpler, our families lived far apart. A visit from relatives was a special surprise when they came. We'd all gather together and talk and laugh and catch up. One of the visits, my mom's half-sister came to stay, bringing her daughter, my cousin, and a few of her younger kids. While the little ones played, the older ones sat behind the house, gossiping about school, friends, and who liked who. Before long, our talk drifted towards scary stories. Things people had seen out on the roads at night. Strange noises near the Hogans, creatures that weren't supposed to exist. We were all trying to scare one another when we realized my cousin had gone completely silent. We asked if she was okay, but she didn't answer. After a long moment, she looked up and asked quietly, do you believe in the Skinwalker? My aunt and I exchanged uneasy glances. We both said we did, but we weren't sure on how to answer beyond that. With a serious look in her eye, she said, okay, this story's gonna sound crazy, but you have to promise not to laugh. We nodded, and she took a deep breath and began. She told us she'd been young at the time, helping her grandma around the house and with her sheep. That evening, her mom and grandma planned to visit some relatives a few miles away. Before they left, her mom told her that she'd be in charge of the Hogan and the sheep until they returned a couple hours. As the sun went down, the cold crept in, and she brought the kids inside and started a fire and tried to make them comfortable. The door to the Hogan was a piece of plywood tied to the frame, with baling wire and a wood stick used as a lock. The little ones were soon asleep on my grandma's old bed, but she stayed up, waiting for her mom and grandma to return. That's when the dog started barking. At first, it was just barking, but then it turned into a frenzy. They circled the Hogan, snarling and growling as if chasing something unseen. Trying to be brave, she got up and unlatched the door and peeked outside, thinking maybe her mom's old pickup had broken down nearby. But there were no headlights, no sounds of an engine, just darkness. She quickly wired the door shut again and sat back in the bed with her heart pounding. The dogs grew louder and the sheep outside were restless. She turned down the wick on the oil lamp until the room was barely lit. Then everything stopped. No barking, no movement, just silence. And then came the growling, deep, low, and right outside the wall of the Hogan. The growl moved toward the corner of the Hogan, right where my grandma kept 2 large barrels of water. She heard something leap into the barrels and then onto the roof. It landed hard and heavy. It started to move. At first it sounded like a large dog on all fours, claws scraping against the roof's surface. Then the footsteps changed from 4 legs to 2. She said it was the most terrifying sound that she'd ever heard. Tears filled her eyes and she didn't dare wake the children. She sat there, shaking, listening as the thing paced overhead. Then came a sudden boom, like it had jumped from one side of the roof to the other. The dogs outside went wild, running circles around the Hogan. The kids woke up crying and she tried to comfort them, but she was on the verge of breaking herself. And then, salvation. From outside came a familiar roar of the mother's pickup truck. Headlights cut through the darkness, growing brighter as they neared. The instant the truck's engines echoed across the yard, the thing on the roof ran, thudding across the top, leaping down into the water barrels with a heavy thump. The moment it hit the ground, they burst through the door and ran toward their mother and grandmother, screaming for help. Their uncle jumped from the truck, grabbing an axe from the woodpile, and sprinted toward the back of the Hogan. When my mom finished telling me this part, she said her cousin's father later went to a medicine man. For years, my cousins hadn't remembered all the details until her sister brought it up one day. Curious, she asked her mother what really happened that night. At first, her mother didn't talk about it, but eventually she told her the truth. As they were driving home that night, they saw something on the roof of the Hogan. It was standing upright. Someone or something wearing a coyote pelt, its body painted in strange symbols. When the headlights hit it, the figure bolted, leaping down onto the water barrels and sprinting toward the hills. My uncle gave chase with an axe, but returned minutes later, pale and shaken. He'd lost it somewhere among the rocks in the shadows. And a few days later, when they visited the medicine man, he confirmed what they had feared. It was a skinwalker. He explained that it had sent someone home and decided to cause harm. Perhaps worse. They were lucky. If the family hadn't returned when they did, something terrible could have happened. I sat stunned as my mother finished the story. What happened to them after that? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know. After that visit, her cousin moved away and lost touch. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she says quietly, maybe it was bad luck. Maybe it was fate. All I know is something was watching over them that night. Yeah, another creepy tale here. Now, story of a story of another story. It's what we call hearsay. I'm just kidding, no. Thank you so much for submitting that story. And honestly, it's one of the most scariest things that you can experience on the reservation, especially as a kid. You know, probably back in those days, they probably had to, like how in the story said, no running water or electricity. That's why they got water barrels and a kerosene lantern. And so being able to be in charge and look after the family and kids, even though you're a kid yourself, is a huge responsibility, especially when it comes to being dark and late at night. I know I have a couple stories of me and my cousins experiencing some things in the reservation too, but those will be stories coming up this week. Oh. But 100% glad that the family was able to return just in time to be able to chase off that thing. And one thing that was really cool that you later on that they were able to share the story of them seeing it on the Hogan and the uncle just giving no F's and just took off after it. W uncle in the chat, everybody. So that uncle is an uncle. That is a good uncle. And yeah, I'm glad they were able to go see a medicine man, but it's one of those things that it's good that the timing of everything was good and the creator was looking out after you and your family and your cousins and your aunties and your loved ones and uncles at the time. So that's good. And sometimes traumatic events like that happen, may cause people to leave the reservation and move away. I've heard stories of people doing that too, and just not wanting to be around that stuff. And like I said, you don't really deal with that stuff in the city just because it's outside the reservation and stuff. So definitely traumatic to be able to go through something like that, but I'm glad everyone made it out okay, safe and sound, because things could have gotten really worse if they weren't there at that certain time. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for these 3 story submittals. Everybody in the comment section, please thank these viewer submitters for submitting this story. For submitting these stories over to Shanclen Shadow Productions, and for all of you to enjoy the content here at Shanclen Shadow Productions on these video submittal story episodes. Yes. So yeah, a lot of cool updates that I have up for you guys. Second channel, I just posted up the Montana vlog, my trip up there. So if you guys haven't yet, go subscribe to Shanclen Shadow Lodge and go check out my awesome content that I have over there. Halloween is coming. It's already here. I would consider the whole month of October Halloween. But because of that, I have a horror game that's going to be coming up on the second channel too, called The Sinking Forest. The Japanese-made movie or video game I saw on Steam one day, and it looks very good. So be ready for more creepy tales. And because of that, we also did a live stream this past Monday, and we have all decided to put it to a vote that the old schedule of Monday live streams, Wednesday uploads for video reactions or story submittal stories will be on Wednesday, and my videos will be returning back to Friday evenings. Yes. So if you guys want to be a part of these major changes here at Shanclen Shadow Productions, join the live streams on Mondays. I would have to say about 50 people were gifted Shanclen Shadow Productions memberships. So those people will be getting early access to my videos, as well as member-only videos coming up very, very soon. I just got to edit those, and those will be ready to go. But again, thank you everybody so much for enjoying Shanclen Shadow Productions. Go follow me on Instagram at Clen Warrior SSP, Clen_Warrior_SSP for more creepy daily updates. And I'll be going up to an investigation tonight. So everybody be ready for more paranormal investigations and adventures out there. Yes. Also, to announce that my audio-only scary stories I have created that are based on some truth, but I can't share all the information on there because to protect the sacredness. But I've gone through a lot of shit in my life, and I feel like I can start making my own scary stories. So those ones will be scary stories created by me from events I have gone through and seen. And also my personal scary stories that I can share will be on Friday nights. Viewer submittal reaction videos will be on Wednesday, as well as live streams on Mondays. Busy, but 'tis the season for Halloween and October. So if you guys enjoy the content, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on your notifications to all so you guys don't miss any posts, live streams, or upcoming videos here at Shanclen Shadow Productions. Many blessings to you all, and hope you all have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Hogan. I just need to start saying, go follow my link tree. Everything's on there. It's a wild day today, but I'm happy. This video is going to be coming out a day late. I'm sorry. I've just been busy all day today. But I hit bench press. New PR. 340. Yes. A couple days I'm going to go through for 345. Let's see if I can do it. Oh.